All right. So we can start the session. So for this session, we'll be speaking about an introduction to the cloud, and we have cloud experts in the meeting who we can also ask the questions you have. So, what is the cloud? So for me, the cloud has is a platform where you can like host the services you have. Think of it like a digital storage. So the cloud has like public and private and hybrid systems. So let's say like AWS and Azure. Those are like the public services that are there for us. So the difference between cloud and the the usual storage you have is that let's say you have a business you've set up and then you have like servers. So you'll find yourself setting up servers in a specific room which will occupy like space. So instead of having all that, you'll you'll think of using the cloud for your business. So you'll take up AWS as a public cloud storage, or you can take Azure and then you say, okay, let me store my services in this using this service. So the cloud is there for us to help us to store any services we have or any storage that we need to have in our enterprises. So yes, if you have anything to add on what you know about the cloud, you can also share it in the chat as we continue with the session. All right. So yeah, welcome everyone who's joining. So we are going to start with our guest speakers who are here. If you can introduce yourselves to us so that we can know who you are and know what kind of roles you're taking up in the cloud space. We can start with Someleze Diko.
Oh, thanks, Lillian. Just let me know if you can be able to hear me. Okay.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Awesome. So, my name is Someleze Diko. I am a cloud advocate at Microsoft who is based out in South Africa, Durban. So, I actually focus on data. So, I've joined the data advocacy team within Microsoft to just speak about data and advocate for it. But previously, I was a cloud advocate that purely focused around the Power Platform and enabling students and institutions to be able to use the Power Platform and adopt it to build solutions. With it. And then prior to that, prior to joining Microsoft, actually, I was a Microsoft Learn student ambassador who obviously did a lot of work around the Power Platform. The Power Platform has always been my pet project, and I worked closely with some of the students within my local university to build solutions using the Power Platform for my university. And then after that, like shortly after that, I actually got an opportunity to work for a local company called Greenlight Business Solutions that was using the Power Platform to build solutions for their client base. So I worked there as a junior Power Platform developer. And then after that, soon after that, just joined Microsoft as a cloud advocate. And I had already just transitioned into the gold status within the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors program. And then after that, I just joined Microsoft as a cloud advocate. Yeah, that's it about me.
That's a great introduction from Someleze Diko, who is a cloud advocate at Microsoft. Um, we have Samson Barasa, who can also introduce himself to us so that you can know more about him.
Okay, thank you, Lillian, and it's a pleasure to be here. To be here. As you've said, I'm Samson Barasa. I'm currently a technical Azure consultant with a company called BUI Technologies, a Microsoft partner. So I primarily focus on advising clients on different aspects of Azure environment, when they are setting up things in Azure cloud. empowerment and sorry, I'm using my phone and my call just came in. You can still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
All right, perfect. So aside from my work as an Azure consultant, I'm also really passionate about student empowerment. And as a result, do lead some communities, one of them being a community called Resource Cloud Academy, where we just help students differentiate themselves through acquiring some cloud skills. And also, I'm also leading the Azure Kenya user group that's on helping professionals interact and gain from and just benefit from each other's experience. It makes things really simple. And all this is because of how I came up to the point I am at the moment, because I'm a product of mentorship. I'm a product of just community development. So that's why I like such interactions. So thank you. Back to you, Lillian.
Okay. Thank you, Samson, for the introduction. As we continue, you can drop any questions you have in the Q&A section of the session. So yes, we can have Kevin introducing himself to us.
Awesome. Am I audible? I think that should be the signature kind of thing before you start talking to yourself. Hopefully I am audible, right? Awesome. Thanks, Collins. So yes, and Lillian, thank you. My name is Kevin Tuei. Just listening to the different introductions, actually you feel how should you really introduce yourself. But first of all, is my name is Kevin Tuei, and I'm on a mission to make the world a better place through technology. My focus mainly is cloud computing and cyber security. And the reason why I prefer introducing myself as such is because many of the different roles that I hold are transient. So I might be, for example, right now I'm a cloud consultant. Tomorrow I might try to do something else. I might decide to become a singer or something. But away from that, I am an AWS community builder on the DevTools category. Professionally, I work also as a cloud technology consultant with a focus on AWS. And just like Samson has mentioned, I've grown in my cloud career through the community. So I volunteer for different communities, for example, the AWS user group Kenya, and also Cloud for Sky community. And again, I'm also an LX Gold Fellow, meaning that I completed the Cloud Developer Nano degree and graduated top 4% in the whole of LX programs offerings. I also train in cybersecurity and cloud computing, and I can't wait to interact with all of you and get to hear what you have, so that it's also a learning process for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. We'll have to wait for Zipporah to join us. As she's joining, the speakers can assist us in understanding what the cloud means to them and to explain a bit on an introduction to the cloud. We can have Someleze Diko starting.
Thanks, Lillian. That's actually it's a very interesting question. So I have similar sentiments to you as what the cloud is, because for me, basically what the cloud is, obviously apart from cloud storage and everything else, the cloud for me is more on just enabling a lot of us as people, not necessarily in the tech space, to build and scale solutions that are fixing a specific problem that we may have in our immediate community or globally for that matter. So the cloud to me is just an enabler for us to be able to build solutions on top of it so that we can make them accessible to anyone and everyone that is in need of that specific solution. And obviously my response may be around biased around the Power Platform, because the Power Platform is in a sense, a cloud-based platform where you can be able to just log in into your M365 account, and you can be able to build automations and solutions that you can be able to use within your organization that solve those tedious tasks that are repetitive, and you can be able to build a solution so that you can be able to increase that productivity within your company or within your organization. So for me, that description fits what the cloud is, so that I can be able to just enable myself to build those solutions or enable others within my community, because I think I speak for everyone here. Community is very important. So how do we enable our community to be able to build solutions using the cloud or using any other of the solutions? Because it's great to have an idea and build a solution using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code and have it on your local machine, but no one is using it. It's even far greater if you can be able to deploy that solution onto the cloud so that people can be able to have access to it.
Okay, that's a good explanation. So, if any of the guest speakers have anything to add on a description on what the cloud is, so that the people joining us can understand, can meet and share.
Right. Now, judging from the way we introduced ourselves, we'll just go next. But so in my view, I'll define the cloud as okay. It's this, just building on top of what Diko has said. I'd define the cloud as a data center and a network somewhere. So, and how this becomes relevant, I like using this analogy. For example, if we're looking at a small business, a small company, I'd liken that small company to someone. Okay, if you're in Kenya, for example, someone who is coming from, we know there is that tendency of maybe after you're done with school, high school, for example, you relocate from up country, you're coming to the city to start, maybe it's looking for a livelihood. So at that point, you're like a small business. You don't have enough capital. You don't have the financial muscle to just come into the city, build your own house, and start living. Okay, buy property first of all, buy the land, then build your own house, then stay rent free. So at that time, the best thing for you being a small business, you'll rent. So you'll come to the city, then find an apartment to rent as you start working. Then after some time, you'll now, after you get that financial muscle, you'll now think about moving to you are buying land in that city, maybe building or so. But so the same way, a small business doesn't have the financial muscle, but they do want to experience to have the best in class technology. What do they do? Instead of investing a lot of capital in buying the servers, buying the routers. I recently even saw a router, the new Cisco 9300s. They are going for even over $1 million. So if you're a small business, getting that financial muscle to get that best in class networking device is really hard. So the cloud provides you with an ability to rent that network and just pay for it monthly. So the same way you would rent a house. But that said, it still works also for a big business. So even if you're a big business, you will come to the cloud for a different reason. For example, and a good explanation would be, take a supermarket, for example. A supermarket owner could be having the financial muscle to buy land and just construct that supermarket. But buying land in the CBD, in the central business district in town, would be so expensive for them. So, and at the same time, buying land in an interior location will not make them accessible to the people easily. So the same way a large business would think of, if they want to make the application accessible to the world very fast, instead of building their own, they have the ability to buy servers to create their own data center. But if you think about how they can make that application available to the whole world, it's really, it takes a lot. At the end of the day, they'll take a month or so to do it if they're doing it so fast. But if they just want to make it easily accessible, they can put it in the cloud, rent space, rent the compute they want in the cloud and they make it available in minutes. There's even a time we deployed an application. I did it on my phone, and we deployed an application, and it's still up. It's an e-commerce site, and I deployed it while moving from town to my place, and it was in public transport. So by the time I was getting home, the application was accessible globally. So you get the difference. So that's how I could explain the power of this thing we are calling cloud. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Samson, for the input. Joining us is Zipporah Wachira. She can introduce herself to us so that you know more about her.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible. So I'll keep mine short and sweet. My name is Wachira, and I currently work as an AWS cloud solutions architect for an AWS partner called Silicon Overdrive. So the company is based in South Africa. So we have a small team in Kenya who work with remotely with the larger team in South Africa. But essentially, my job primarily involves making out. I think on a day-to-day basis, how I describe it is native clients take a sort of a deep dive into their technical requirements, and most of our clients usually people who are trying to migrate into the cloud, or people who are already in the cloud and are trying to optimize the environment. That could be security, that could be cost, that could be make it a bit more reliable, scalable, any of those. So meet with them, understand the requirements, and then as an architect, your job essentially is to make recommendations, to create designs where it's needed, and then to also just help the clients or support them in the deployment that comes after that. So yeah, I worked in on a very nice analogy of cloud. I have nothing to add to that. I think that was a perfect explanation of what exactly the cloud is. But yeah, very happy to be here.
Okay, thank you, Zipporah. I think you've said that you work for AWS based in South Africa. Am I right?
So an AWS partner,
Okay,
not AWS itself. It's a partner company. Yes.
okay, thank you. I have questions that were received from the form. So we'll start with the questions, and you can also drop questions you have for the guest speakers, depending on what you've heard from the introduction or whatever you have. So we have the first question. It says, I would like to know the difference between Azure and AWS in terms of training and certifications. Would you recommend an unbiased or a specific vendor? So those are like two questions. The difference between Azure and AWS. And the second question is, in terms of training and certifications, would you recommend an unbiased or a specific vendor? So for any of the guest speakers who have an answer to that, you can unmute and share it with us.
I think I better start before Samson milks it all with an awesome analogy. So what I can say, first of all, I'll speak about first of all the difference, because, and in essence, actually the only difference is preference, actually. And maybe, for example, an organization wanting to work with one vendor. For example, an organization is already heavy on its system on Microsoft. So the most prudent thing would be to, when you're going to the cloud, is to adopt Azure over maybe any other cloud provider, because of maybe the ability to easily sync and a kind of a consistent interface. Then when we're talking about also maybe looking at AWS, looking at maybe people choose it or prefer it because of it being the leader or the pioneer in terms of cloud computing, and maybe there's more services that are offered and a lot in terms of the pace of innovation when it comes to the different offerings. So all that comes into play. And when I talk about the trainings, one thing I know is that the training that I have, for example, on things that I've known about, maybe let's say AWS, the moment I've gone through a training, an Azure training or a GCP or an OCI, it's very easy to transfer those skills and to understand the difference, because some of the times the difference is the terminology. And the most important thing when you're looking at cloud is these four things. There's the compute, there's storage, there's network, and there's also security, and maybe any other things that are coming. But the core things are usually compute, storage, network, and around security in that aspect. So when it comes to training, it doesn't mean that you going unbiased will make it any better for you. For example, if you say, I'm only going to take, let's say, CNCF training or any kind of provider who is a training provider who is not aligned to any cloud provider, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to learn everything across all the cloud providers. What I know is if I train on maybe, let's say, and I get certifications on AWS, I can easily transfer those skills and knowledge. If I was actually learning for the skills and not to pass the exam, I'll be able to leverage the skills that I've gained through that certification or through that training onto delivering solutions for any client. Always remember that you need to be very open-minded, because you're not going to make a client, if they decided to go Azure, to move to AWS just because you have a preference for AWS. Or same case, you cannot just move someone from AWS, they have all their workloads and everything, to move to Oracle or any other provider just because you feel it is the buzz of the town or whatever it is you want to put. You have to work with the client. And as Someleze was saying, it is all about providing solutions. So you need to provide solutions that the client will feel that they have already gotten value for their money that we're investing by moving to the cloud. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kevin, for the input. We can have any other guest speaker who can also add on the question.
On my end, I don't think I have anything to add, because Kevin actually covered everything that I was going to say to that question.
Mhm. All right. On my end, maybe I can just add an analogy, as Kevin had preempted. Okay, from a technical standpoint, I like to think about it as you as a technical person, think about it as though you are going to driving school. So if you learn to drive in that driving school, you are taught how to drive using a Toyota. Does it mean you can't drive a Mazda? Does it mean you can't drive a Range Rover? So at the end of the day, it means the truth is, after you learn how to drive, then you can drive anything, right? Any car. So it's the same thing with the cloud. Once you learn AWS, once you learn Google, once you learn Microsoft Azure, it means your skills will be easily transferable, just the way Kevin has said. And then when you're looking at it from, like, should you learn one a particular platform, or should you go for a vendor agnostic platform? So at the end of the day, as particularly for cloud, I doubt it will be easy for you to get a vendor agnostic, any vendor agnostic content that is well packaged. But at the end of the day, it's your choice between which cloud to go for is just preference, the way Kevin had said. So why would you decide to buy a BMW instead of a Mercedes? It's you as a person. So what really excites you in that, and with that vehicle? So, but at the end of the day, if you learn one, you have all.
Sure. Samson has just said something that I've remembered when he said that there is no, like, it's very difficult to get. There was one time I decided to check on a cloud training content from a provider who was saying they were agnostic. Then they realized that I have to go and do the same thing. For example, if it is setting up an instance or a compute instance, what I have to do, I have to go do the same thing on AWS, I have to go do the same thing on Azure, I have to go do the same thing on Oracle, and it is so crazy. Why should I repeat the same thing 5 times and you're saying you're doing something vendor agnostic? It's quite crazy. So yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you for the input. We have a reminder from Juma that we also have Huawei Cloud. Thank you for the reminder. I think we can proceed to the next question. What institutions can one enroll to learn about the cloud? We can have Someleze starting out. If you have any input.
That's a great question. But so when it comes to institutions, I would like to look at it in a way that you are there in the institution to just learn. So there's no specific institution that you can enroll in to learn about the cloud. So what I'm trying to say is, in most cases, let's say universities or colleges, they're there to give you the skill on how to build solutions, not specific to the cloud, but how to build solutions. Either you're learning programming, either you're learning about AI, or either you're learning about machine learning and all of those things. It's not specific to the cloud, but it's showing you how you can build the solution from the ground up. So your programming languages, your programming concepts and all of those things, and then how you then get to the cloud. There's no specific institution for that where you're learning about the cloud, but there are institutions out there that may be better than others in showing you or teaching you about the cloud concepts. But most of the cloud concepts that would take you from beginner to advanced level are cloud concepts that you may learn when you are doing your certifications on the end. So I hope that actually answers your question. So you don't have to just look at a specific institution and say it'll teach you more about the cloud, because institutions actually focus on a general sense when it comes to IT, if you're looking into IT, but it focuses on a general sense, giving you the skills to build solutions that you can then take to the cloud, or sometimes you can then take on premise.
Thank you, Someleze, for the input. So do you have any guest speaker who would like to add on the question?
I can add just something small. So first of all, personally, I'm a big advocate of self-study. But at the same time, I'm also a product of actually a cloud program. So while I agree that it's not possible to learn the cloud in its entirety, there are some programs that have come up in the past couple of years that if you're a beginner, if you're someone who's not, let's say, all the way comfortable with self-study, you want something that's a bit more structured, you want something that's a bit more instructor-led. If that's your approach to studying, then there are programs that do exist out there that can help you at least get that first step out of the way, get you started, get you the basic skills. So I think a good example is something that I'm sure most of you have heard. Let's have a very good cloud engineering program that you can take, and they take you from the basics. So for example, I think with AWS, they start you off with a CCP, and then they also take you through training for the Architect Associates certificate. So it's a good way to get started. If that is what you're looking for, just something to get you started, and you need something that gives you a bit of structure, then there are a few programs. So I know of ALETS. You may have also heard of Azure. They have an annual program, an annual cloud engineering program. There is also the, I think I'll leave some to speak about the Azure side, but this is mostly for AWS. There is also the Azure program. If you can look them up on LinkedIn, or on Google, you learn a bit about some of the offerings that they have. Yeah, so I think those are the two most common ones. But of course, there are a few others that are out there.
Okay, thank you, Zipporah, for the add-on. Do you have any other guest speaker who would like to add on whatever was spoken about. All right. So for the institutions also, I can recommend Microsoft Learn. It's free. It's a free platform. You can learn about Azure Cloud, and you can also take certifications on the same. Okay. I'll send the link to the Azure platform Zipporah has spoken about. And let's proceed to the next question. So we have spoken about the CCP certification as a newbie in the cloud and looking forward to write my solution architect exam. How do I dive into the job market? Where do I start? And are there internships or entry-level positions for the same? We can have Samson starting out with the response.
All right. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's great that you've to the person who's posed that question. It's great that you've already started out. Now, when it comes to opportunities, I'd like to approach it this way because I feel like this is how it has worked for me and how it has. It's even me as a if I put myself in an employer's perspective, it will be what I'm looking for. So for me, as you do this, as you learn, okay, you're starting out in your fundamentals level. So first of all, most of these cloud fundamentals certifications, they do not give you employable skills. They give you an introduction into the cloud. But if you look at them, once you are done with that fundamental content, or you've done that fundamental certification, then you are not yet. You could be maybe because of you could be ready, maybe because of you work very keen in the practicals, but in most cases you do not you are not ready to like handle a real client problem. But you now how you can play it out is for whatever certification you do, and that this is what I tell maybe people who ask this. For every certification you do, let's say the fundamental, try to build two concrete scenarios. For the fundamental level, just look for two concrete real life scenarios that solve a business need. So Diko at first mentioned that the whole idea of the cloud is solving problems that are specific to the way the cloud works, for example. So look at and right now there's things like ChatGPT. If you just go and outline the things that you've learned, the modules you've covered, and tell it to generate for you a real customer scenario that leverages on all these technologies you've learned. Then you'll start understanding how do all these things, that the names of services that you've learned or the different services, tie together to solve a particular problem. And then you by yourself, you can do that implementation. Implement it, go through the weeds, troubleshoot, and then after that, write a proper documentation, put it online, share it on LinkedIn. That's how you attract even the people who are maybe looking for interns or so forth. Because right now it's really difficult for you to go somewhere and just tell them that you have maybe I've done my cloud practitioner, AWS cloud practitioner. Can I get an internship? So it's more about how do you really know how to use this knowledge? Because right now there is also the fear of being a certification junkie. So you can just have the certifications, but you don't have any skills. And then now when you move to the associate level, after you do any associate level cert, look for 4 scenarios. So you go you go as you double the number of scenarios you build. So this way you ensure that you really know how these things tie together to solve a problem. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I got my first cloud job, I had not, in the interview, I used a scenario that I had built personally. It was not a real client problem. Like it wasn't meant for, I didn't deploy it in production, but I did deploy it myself. And it was a scenario that I could explain. The client has this need. I solved this particular need this way, and this is how it cost, and so forth. And just from that, like I feel like it gives an interviewer or someone who's looking for that skill a good view of what you can do. So majorly focus on that practical aspect, and now the branding aspect. You are good practically, and you know how to package that information and put it out there. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you for the input. If you have any other addition for the guest speakers, you can add on it.
So the only thing I can add to what Samson, because Samson just does it so perfectly, is uh, please do join communities. He has mentioned Resource Cloud Academy, there's Cloud for Sky, there's AWS user groups all around, and there's Kenya, there's Pwani, and all these different communities. Because within these communities, there is an opportunity to take part in challenges, get people to review your own solutions, so that you don't study in isolation, which can be sometimes you might lie to yourself. You might think you're learning, but in essence, you're not doing something really tangible and capable. And even when you're sharing your technical content or something that you've created, where else will you share if it is not inside a community and people will support you? Yeah. So please do lean on the community.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin, for the reminder.
Allow me to add something just small. This is just more of building on what Kevin has said, and I'm just going to use an example to emphasize on why that's important. So recently, so the company I work for, we were recently looking, or rather hiring junior architects to join our team, which is really an internship role. And the question was about internships. But the thing is, this role was not advertised anywhere, literally nowhere. There was no knowledge outside of the company that there was any hiring that was going on. And the thing is, the guys who are ultimately going to get those positions are people who have been recommended by people in the company. So we were asked to give our recommendations for whom we think would be a good fit. So what Kevin is saying, joining these communities, networking with people, it's essential, especially when you're starting out, because it's a trend that's sort of upcoming where even if a post is advertised, a recommendation takes you a step higher than if you compare that to someone who's going through the normal route of just applying, sending out a CV to a recruiter somewhere that they don't know. But when someone who holds a certain position in a company can actually recommend you, can actually advocate for you, can actually vouch for you, it increases your chances so much better. And of course, I'm not going to just, for example, if I use myself, I'm not going to recommend anyone, because recommending someone means you're placing your image on the line, because it's essentially you're promising that, you know what, if you guys invest in this person, they are going to deliver. So obviously, I'm not going to place my reputation on the line for someone who I feel does not quite match up. So as part of creating your portfolio, just make sure you're also using these communities to network, to, depending on the kind of role you want, find people within those positions, connect with them, talk with them, just make sure you're building some sort of relationship with them, so that when these opportunities come up, whether it's where they are, or because we also hear about these opportunities at other companies, I can ask someone in another company, I know this person, can you recommend them for this particular position? So that will actually just place you on just a level higher than the average person. So it's quite important, maintain that network aspect and take it, just take it to heart, essentially. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Zipporah, for the input. We have another question. What certificate can one write after training in Azure Cloud Computing? We can have Someleze taking us through that.
Yeah, of course. But before I answer that, make sure that you listen to this advice of not being a certification junkie. You have to make sure that you are able to prove that you have the skills. You didn't just do the certification to get either the PDF version of the certification or the physical copy. But otherwise, in terms of what certificate one can write after doing training in Azure Cloud Computing, I don't know what route you'd be taking when you're doing the training in Azure Cloud Computing, but the certifications that are there that you can do are your Azure fundamentals. It's called the AZ900. You can do that. It'll give you the basics of Microsoft Azure. And then you can take it a step further and do, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can do an AI 900 if you want to focus on AI, and then those are just the fundamentals ones. And then you can take it to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the AZ105, if I'm not mistaken. But I will grab a link and just put it on the chat so that you can be able to see some of the Azure certifications that you can actually do after you've completed the training. Reason why I was asking the question earlier on, I'm not entirely sure how you're completing that Azure Cloud Computing training, is because normally when you're doing the training on what we have at Microsoft called Microsoft Learn, you would normally have a certification pathway that you are following when you're following those learn modules. Sometimes it's actually written in the description of that learn module that this learn module is part of, let's say, a collection for the AZ900. So if you follow those learn modules and you're saying that you're working towards a certification for the Azure fundamentals, then you can be able to do that certification. But I will grab the link for you guys to see which certifications are there for Azure specifically, but there are other certifications that are available on Microsoft Learn depending on what you're really interested in. You can pivot into the Power Platform, or you can pivot into cybersecurity or security, because there's also a security fundamental certification into that. But do not be a certification junkie by just doing the certification for the sake of doing it. Do the certification to learn, and do the certification, build something that is tangible that you can be able to add on to your portfolio, just like everyone else has said on the call.
Okay, thank you so much for the advice and the input. So if we have any other guest speaker who would like to add into the conversation, you can unmute. All right, so we'll continue with the next question. Someone asks, they would like to hear about the guest speaker's experiences in the job market, more so regarding readiness to take roles and availability for these roles. We can have Kevin taking us through that. If you have any input.
So just kindly reiterate the question for me so that I don't answer what I thought. What was the question again?
Okay, the question asks that they would like to hear about your experience in the job market, more so regarding readiness to take roles and availability of these roles.
Okay, awesome. So I just put it in what thing, like if I was given 5 seconds to answer that, I would always say opportunity meets preparedness. So if you're talking about readiness, always have an eye on something, and you better be known for something. It's easy for me to jump left, right, and center. I can trust me. I have resources. I can access all the learning and everything on almost all the providers except Juma's Huawei Cloud. I'll not talk much about it, but I can do OCI, GCP, Azure, and all that. But the reason why I would want to be known for one thing is because that is the direction I want. I want to get opportunities. I want to consult on those areas. So you better be known. For example, if you want to be known for like a DevOps engineer, work towards that. Don't just do certifications and then you learning the answers and you're not building a portfolio. Build such skills like report writing, do blogs. Trust me, the first blog is usually wacky, but as you move on, you get better and better and better. And that one blog, that blog that you're having maybe on Medium or Dev or Hashnode or wherever it is, can be that one thing that can be the difference between you and another person when they are trying to make a decision on whether to hire you or not, or even if you're supposed to take a consulting role. I can tell you there's a one time when a certain client was supposed to decide on who would want to bring on board to run us with a certain project, and it was quite a big project. And the reason why they chose us, for example, because we consult with Data Alma, is just because both me and my co-partner had already done a similar project. It was a project about sending some security logs from AWS to Microsoft Sentinel and setting up some Citrix servers and all that. And the reason for that is because we had done that and we had documented it somewhere. So it was easy for us to say, that is something we've done before. And although we had not done it the way Samson had said, we had not done it in a production environment, the fact that we had already cracked our heads around it, meaning that we could be trusted, to deliver. And that actually made the difference. So as you said, opportunity meets preparedness. And the best place to start, I think there's usually this thing called Cloud Resume Challenge. Go search it, set it up, build your skills. I think it covers all the major providers, Azure, AWS, I think, and GCP, if I'm not wrong. And you can start with one track, go with it, and leverage, if it's Microsoft or Azure, just leverage that in companionship with the Microsoft Learn platform, and you'll be somewhere, you'll grow in it. And just don't forget that you need to get your hands dirty on the console, on the CLI, because that is what matters. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. If we have any other guest speaker who has something to add on to that, you can unmute. Also, remember to drop your questions in the Q&A section. We'll also air them out.
I don't know if Samson wants to go first.
No, Diko, you can go.
Okay, thanks, Samson. So I probably have just one thing that I have noticed when I got into my role, even my previous role. Soft skills are just as important as technical skills. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Don't just focus on having only technical skills, because yes, you may be able to get that role because you're able to build something. But if you do not have the soft skills to be able to survive in an environment where it's fast paced, you may be out of that role as fast as possible. I'm saying this from experience because within Microsoft, we go through a whole lot of changes. I think it could be an organization restructure or it could be a team restructure, and you need to have the soft skills to be able to survive something like that, where you are always eager either to learn a new skill, because I switched from being a Power Platform cloud advocate to being a data cloud advocate. I have no background experience with data, but I'm more open to being able to learn whatever new product that I need to use within that specific team and be able to fulfill my job as a cloud advocate or as a data cloud advocate. So soft skills are just as important as your technical skills. So soft skills could be around you being able to pitch an idea to either your manager, being able to work closely with your teammates, either in getting a feature out or being able to problem solve. That's very important whenever you are working either in a big corporation or a small corporation. That's very important for you, instead of just being that technical person only. You need to have a balance of both.
Okay, thank you, Someleze, for that. Samson, you can proceed.
All right. Yeah. So maybe just to add on what Diko has said. So in my experience, especially being someone who is more on the infrastructure side, I can say it's really it's a bit difficult getting the first job that is just cloud focused. So especially if you're in the infrastructure or dealing with the infrastructure side, you're already, if you've just learned cloud, you do not know, you have a lot of abstraction. You just know infrastructure from the virtual machine level. You don't know what happens underlying that virtual machine, or before that virtual machine layer comes to play. So it's just by that fact, it's a bit difficult just having you with your cloud skills alone breaking into your first role. So in my experience, so what I did at first, I started out in networking. So even in my previous role, I wasn't doing a lot of cloud. I could say it was around 30% cloud, 70% all the other things. So you can just take that approach. You don't have to like look for a role that is purely cloud focused. The idea is to have that first step into the industry, and then now from there you can maneuver your way as you move. Because even in this organization that I was before, we just started. I was doing networks, but then we slowly introduced the cloud department, and then started building from there. And it's from there that now I got into a more cloud, an 100% cloud focused role. So there are different skills that build into you as a cloud professional. If you want to be a cloud architect, if you want to be a cloud engineer, you have to know a lot more than just that cloud platform. You need to know concrete networking skills. If you're more into programming, if you're going into DevOps, you also need to have some concrete understanding of things like CI/CD pipelines, because they have been there before, even before the cloud came into play.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know if we have any other guest speaker who would like to add on to the discussion. I hope we are taking notes. For me personally, I've learned a lot, and struggling to like note all the points that are being said. So make sure you note the things that are being talked about during this session. We have another question, and it says, is there any way of transforming to Cloud Advocate from MLSA, which is Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors, and how to get into the Cloud Advocate career path? With that, I think I can address to Someleze, and any other guest speaker would like to add.
Yeah, I can definitely take that into account. I think even before I just get into that, even other companies, big or small, have cloud advocate positions, but you probably heard of them as developer advocate instead of cloud advocate. So I think other guest speakers can be able to speak on that, on other companies that they've worked closely with. But personally, with transforming from becoming a cloud advocate, from being a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, I have I've gone through that path because, like I mentioned in my introduction, I was a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, and then I transitioned into my cloud advocate role. Now, that was not, I just need to note this, it was not because I was a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, it did not mean that I can be able to get into Microsoft as a cloud advocate. It's not the natural progression where you say, now I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and I've finished all of the program requirements and I'm ready to get into the industry. I need to transition into becoming a cloud advocate. How it happened for me on my personal experiences, I was a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and I was working closely with one of the Microsoft employees who was then my manager when I first joined. Worked closely with him, volunteered on a project around Power Platform, and we worked closely. And then there was a time where he was hiring for his team. The job role got advertised publicly, not just within the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors program. It got advertised publicly, and then he encouraged everyone else who was part of the team who was working on that project to apply for that job role. I and the rest of the team had an advantage over external applicants. Why? Because we had a close relationship with this person who was hiring for this cloud advocate position. He already knew us. He already saw the work ethic that we had. So it goes back to networking and showing your skill and proving that you can be able to, be in that position. So we had that advantage, and I think we were bumped up on that review process where they have to look at your resume using like an automated system. It just went straight to the recruiter, and then the recruiter actually reached out to every one of us. I was not the only one. So every one of us got reached out by the recruiter, and then we went through the rounds of interviews. And then it was then on our side to actually sell ourselves and talk about what we've worked on and talk about how we've contributed or how we've made impact into the community. So it wasn't a clear path of just transitioning from being a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador into a cloud advocate position. It just so happened that I applied just like everyone else. It's just that I had that advantage of having worked closely with a Microsoft employee. That's why with Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors that are currently in the program, I try to urge them and encourage them to actually sign up for those volunteer projects that are there, so that when opportunities like these of becoming a cloud advocate show up, they can be able to be the first considered. They can be considered first and have like an advantage, because if you show up as a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and you actually showcase your value to whoever is the recruiting manager or hiring manager, then you can be able to have a greater chance of being a cloud advocate. How to get into the cloud advocate career path? If you are a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, just know that you are already on that path, because what student ambassadors do as ambassadors, we do as cloud advocates. It's just that now it's more on a professional level. We advocate for that specific technology. We contribute to communities. We contribute to the content that goes to communities. We work closely with communities. We do sessions around that specific technology or a different kind of technology, but in this case, more on a Microsoft level. So if you want to get into a developer advocate career path, that's when you can be able to showcase your value on your social media. So it could be your LinkedIn, where you are showcasing that you are learning, let's say, Azure fundamentals, and you have 4 scenarios or 2 scenarios, just like Samson said, that you are thinking about building a solution for. You build those solutions, you document it down, you share it on your LinkedIn, either on your or GitHub as well. You do a little short video, you do that, and you continuously do it. And then when developer advocate roles or positions are available, you apply. The recruiting or hiring managers can be able to see that you're fit for that specific job role. So that's how you get into that career path, by advocating for your favorite technology. It doesn't have to be a Microsoft technology, it doesn't have to be specific to a vendor. It's just what you love and your goals.
All right. Thank you for the input, Someleze. Do we have any other guest speaker would like to add on to that discussion? Okay. I had a question here. Okay, Samson, you can proceed.
Sorry, Lillian, I just wanted to say we have heard from the horse's mouth.
Oh, okay. Okay. There was a question submitted on what is a Q&A session. So sorry for just popping up in the Q&A session without explaining what it is. A Q&A session is like a question and answer session, like as we are doing. So we are reading through the questions and then we have the answers. Next, we have most of the questions that were submitted were cybersecurity oriented. I think Kevin can handle that with us and any other guest speaker who can join in. So what certification can I take as a beginner in cloud security? And what median range salary for someone who works in the cloud security area?
Wow, that question is really packed. Thanks so much, Lillian, for that question. And I think it goes back to I think what Someleze was talking about, where you, and even Samson I think also mentioned this, is you don't just come into and say, I want to do cloud security, and you don't have any fundamentals on cloud and such. You might be having transferable skills from being a sysadmin or a network admin on premise, but still cloud is a whole animal altogether. So it's better to build your credibility as you grow in terms of your skills, in terms of your knowledge. And the good thing about security is it is okay, we usually say it's job zero. It's the first thing we think about, and it covers all aspects, whether you're doing development or you're in development, or you're in infrastructure or in DevOps. Every aspect of cloud has, even if it's storage, if you're going to be a storage specialist, you have to look at the elements and the aspects of security. So what that means is, if you're looking at what you can do and the careers around it, it can permeate in any area, whether it is you have a love for databases, or you have a love for storage or networking. It can get into each and every part, or even if it's development and if it's DevSecOps and all that. So what I can say is, if you're looking at it from certification perspective, and again, I'll reiterate what has been mentioned by the speakers before, don't be thinking certification first and then maybe that will get me a job, then I'll learn on the job. It doesn't really work like that. It's better you start from the skills, and such that the certification comes in to only validate the skills. I've gotten an opportunity to do very different certifications, but I've held them out because I want to love the process. I want to, by the time I'm getting to do the certification, I'm not doing it to learn the answers and pass it and post it on LinkedIn and just put it out there. Yet when somebody comes in and says, Kevin, I'd like you to come and apply your machine learning specialty certification onto what you are doing in machine learning, then I start fumbling and mumbling all about it because I just learned the answers. So in terms of certification, there are different providers. The one that is known is IC2. They have the CompTIA. They have the cloud security. Most of them, they are vendor agnostic, if I can say, but they're really rich in terms of content. Also, ISACA, if you're looking at cloud audit, they have a certificate in cloud security, cloud auditing knowledge. There is that. And then even different vendors from AWS, Azure, Oracle. I can even mention the same for Huawei, because I train for Huawei in terms of HCIA security, and I also have a HCIP certification in security. Network security, it's definitely the thing to do, and you get a lot of labs, scenarios, how to configure firewalls, and configuring that, whether it's on premise or even in the cloud, is really, really interesting. And many different providers, especially now with the age of AI. I know it's weird that we've had a tech session and you've not mentioned AI up until now. That is quite nice. I know Samson must have been already mentioned it before the end of the session. But in the age of AI, there's a lot of AI-powered cyber attacks. There's a lot of things that are happening that people are doing, especially in the age of automation. We have done a lot of automation, and we can just give a large language model, an architecture, or even a Terraform or whichever, or a CloudFormation template, and it will just explain what is happening in that whole infrastructure. So what that means is security becomes a top priority, and it becomes also another priority to look at things such as governance, risk, and compliance, because you're looking at it in terms of you need to retain certain logs for this number of years for compliance, especially in highly regulated industries such as financials and healthcare, and the other areas is standard. So cyber security or even cloud security in itself can be quite lengthy and quite wide, and you cannot do all those kind of things. You cannot just say you're going to do cloud auditing, you're going to do cloud penetration testing or offensive, and then you're going to do network security in cloud. So what that means is, if you already get your niche area, if it is storage or network or computer or databases or machine learning, do focus on that. Then you can start aligning yourself as a person who is known to secure infrastructure, secure data, or whatever you're going to be doing in that kind of area. So there are those different certifications, and I can tell you, sad to say, the bad news is that most of the different cybersecurity certifications cost an arm and a leg. They cost a lot. So I wouldn't advise that to just jump on to getting into a cybersecurity certification. Build the skills. And the good thing, there are so many different lab providers or skills providers, starting from, I'll be biased towards AWS. There's AWS Skill Builder, and also there's pondlabs.io, there's TryHackMe, there's Hack the Box. All of them have even set up some scenarios, cloud scenarios, just to ensure that people have this ability to leverage the cloud. So that's what I can say, and just play it small, grow in the process. Yeah, love the process.
Okay, thank you for the amazing input. I think it has touched on a question that was submitted concerning starting out in cybersecurity. Yeah. So if we have any other guest speaker who would like to add on the discussion, you can unmute and add on it. All right.
Okay,
So,
and sorry, Lillian, for that topic. Maybe, let me just add something. So I hold a very reserved view when it comes especially to cybersecurity. So, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think you can just start out and start, especially if you're a beginner, and just start out and focus on clouds, on cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is the securing the infrastructure. And if you just learn how to secure the infrastructure and do not know how that infrastructure works, then is deep down you will have a gap. So you just know the security principles. If someone tells you there is a problem here, you just know, just apply a network security group or anything. But it could be, we all know technology. Some things just happen in a very interesting way. So if you don't know the inner working of that particular technology, then you are operating in a very tricky arena. So for example, if you're coming from, you can approach security from a networking perspective or from a programming perspective. But in all this, you can't secure a network if you do not know how that network operates. So you first need to take a step back, learn the fundamentals of networks. Even if you are configuring firewalls, the basic idea of how a firewall works is on IP, is on the TCP/IP protocol or the OSI layer model. So if you don't know how these things are, then you do not understand in totality what you are trying to secure. Same thing if you are coming from the application side or the development side, for example. Yeah, so I think first of all, if you are coming to cybersecurity, don't just focus on security. I believe, if I can give just for me, if I was going into security and I want to study Azure, for example, I'll do Azure fundamentals, then I'll do Azure Administrator Associates just to understand how the whole platform works. Then I will go into even just do something like Azure Data Fundamentals, do something like Azure AI Fundamentals, have a good understanding around those areas. Then I'll start focusing on security now, maybe do Azure Security Engineer Associate or do Azure Network Engineer. So it's building blocks. Cybersecurity is more about the underlying things, not just a concept, not just learning cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you for the input. On cybersecurity, we have another question, and it says, can you provide an example of a security incident you've handled in a cloud environment? How did you respond? And how do you stay updated on the latest advancements and threats in cloud security? So if any of the guest speakers can add to that, you can unmute and share.
Maybe I can go first before Samson milks it. So, what I'll say, I actually say I'll say one. This is a scenario that I gave as a talk for an AWS Community Day in Zimbabwe. It was held virtually, and it was about the day I almost lost my AWS account. And the reason for that is I was doing my nano degree, my Udacity nano degree, and as always, those nano degrees are usually crazy in terms of skills and hands-on and everything. So there was a certain challenge that you are supposed to do, and the AWS account that they'd given us had like all these role permissions. You couldn't do much. You can't create, and it was really a challenge because I wanted to just finish that section and submit to my reviewer so that I can move to the next stage. And the time was flying, and there were deadlines to meet. So what I decided that back then I wasn't that cloud security conscious. So I was actually using my root account to do things on AWS. And funny thing is, I as I was finishing my whole project, and since it was late in the night, I committed both my code as well as my IAM access key and secret key credentials to GitHub. So what happened is, after you finish submitting, you feel that sigh of relief. I'm done with that project. I'm so happy. I can't wait for what the reviewer is going to say. So as I was refreshing my email, because I knew the Udacity reviewers usually review very fast, like not more than an hour or two, I was actually getting a different kind of email. I was getting that AWS or a verification team was sending me an email saying that the resources that I've requested that required later validation have been approved. And it was not in one region, it was in Osaka, Japan, Cape Town, South Africa, Mumbai, India. So I was wondering what the hell, how is it that all these resources, it was crazy big instances with over 30 virtual CPUs. And it was like a whole hell happening on my face. And trust me, since then, that is when I decided to be serious about cloud security, because it took me around 6 months of back and forth with AWS support, considering I don't afford enterprise support on a personal account to get expedited responses. So there's just a whole back and forth explaining to them what happened. But the thing is, at the end of it all, as much as they refunded me the $300 or $400 worth of credits that was taken up by in a span of 2 hours because of all those resources and a whole stress of me doing all the resource deletions myself, logging into each and every region and deleting those instances and all those key pairs and all those kind of things. They just put the shared responsibility model in full as an email to me and bolded the part that as a user, as a customer, anything that happens on your account is your responsibility as per the customer agreement that you signed when you created your account. So they are just really understood my naivety that time. And I'm sure right now they wouldn't agree, they wouldn't allow any refunds to me or any kind of things, but I learned the hard way. I learned that I should never think about using long-term access keys. I should never use my root access account. And it became something that I started consciously advocating to many people starting out in the cloud, that if I see you logging in using your email, I tell you, what the hell are you using your root user account? You should set up an IAM user, put away your root user account, set it apart, use it just for other things such as billing or any other thing that requires the root user account. And for your daily purposes, for your daily use, just use your IAM user with only the least privilege, the principle of least privilege. So that scenario, although it happened to me, I thank God it wasn't happening to a client of mine, because that would have been crazy. I learned that cloud security is your own responsibility. So just make sure, and even as you're learning, as you're tinkering with whatever is happening, you have created an account, please have security in your mind. Have cyber security. Think about it. The first thing. Always remember that. And lately, I think it's something that you need to remember, that people are losing their WhatsApp accounts lately so much. I'm wondering what is happening. People are saying, I don't have these. The other day, yes, a certain group that I really follow a lot got the group taken over. I don't know whether the group creator lost, the account got compromised, but somebody came in, dismissed all the admins, and started setting up bots on the WhatsApp group. So it's getting crazy out there, and you need to just make sure that you become conscious, even when you're doing, regardless of what you're doing, whether it is development, whether it's power platform, whichever kind of thing that you're doing, just think about security first. And these things, right? The other day, GitHub enforced two-factor authentication. AWS also made sure that now it is a requirement that you have two-factor authentication. Google set up pass keys. So as you can see, please leverage these things. Don't make them an afterthought. And if you haven't set up an email for your WhatsApp account, go do that after this call and set up two-factor authentication. You'll thank me later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the input and warnings you've given us. Do we have any other guest speaker would like to add on to that? Okay. So I'll go to the Q&A question. Is there a relationship between cloud and data analytics in the industry? Yeah, we can briefly speak on that. Does any guest speaker have something to say regarding the relationship between cloud and data analytics in the industry?
No, okay, maybe not much, but things to do with data. So what the cloud does is, I've not worked with data a lot, but I see people creating data pipelines way easily with the cloud than maybe setting them up on-prem servers. For example, if someone wants to build a data lake. So a data lake is essentially a large container where you put your data and you want to make sense of it, or want to plug it into different other solutions, or want other solutions to pick that data and make sense of it. So if someone wants to build a data lake, maybe they would need a large storage on-prem. They would need the experience also to install all those databases, the underlying databases, before we can come up to that level where you want to now put your data on top. But in the cloud, for example, on Azure, you can just spin up an Azure data lake service, and then you start from at least an abstracted layer where you just need someone who understands how to play around with that. Maybe that could be my take.
Okay, thank you for that, Samson. For the other question was on getting a junior role. So I think the guest speakers handled that question regarding finding the roles in cloud, where you were told to do report writing, focus on blogs, and also that opportunity meets readiness. So like we have to keep on working towards the soft skills and also doing projects, especially in the ones that are being advertised, maybe for maybe other groups, like say in Azure and all AWS. So with that, I think we have had a nice session, the Q&A and introduction to the cloud. Thank you for the guest speakers for speaking to us today and for having various advices apart from the questions that have been aired out. And thank you for joining the call. Also, we have a group that we usually have where we drop our sessions or any other information that you'd like to know on the cloud. It's a free group. You can share the opportunities you have. So you can join the group if you are interested to know more about the cloud. And the speakers also have dropped their LinkedIn profile. Make sure you check them out and connect so that you can have that networking with them. If there's any comments, you can add it to the group chat, or you can also unmute and share. Yeah, thank you for joining, and we've had an amazing session. Thank you so much for joining.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. We'll drop the recording to the group chat. And for any other question that you had that had not been addressed to the panel, you can share them to the LinkedIn profiles that they have. They are open to help and assist when needed. Goodbye, guys.